Have you ever felt like someone who used to text you first suddenly takes hours to reply? She still smiles. She still talks to you. But somehow, something feels different. Most men ignore these small changes until it's too late. They assume she's just busy, stressed, or tired. Sometimes that's true, but psychology suggests that when someone's emotions begin to shift, their behavior often changes before they ever say a word. Communication patterns, emotional availability, and daily habits can all change for many reasons, so it's important not to jump to conclusions based on a single sign. In this video, you'll discover 7 psychology-based signs that may indicate she's becoming emotionally distant, and more importantly, what you can do instead of making the situation worse. Stay until the end, because the final sign is the one most men completely misunderstand. One of the biggest mistakes people make in relationships is believing that attraction disappears overnight. It usually doesn't. Distance often grows little by little. One delayed reply, one cancelled plan, one less conversation. Each change seems small on its own, but over time, they can create emotional distance. The good news is that noticing patterns early gives you a better chance to respond calmly and respectfully instead of reacting out of fear. Relationship experts often recommend looking for consistent patterns over time, not isolated incidents. Let's begin with the first sign. Think back to when things were going well. Your conversations flowed naturally. She asked questions. She laughed. She wanted to know how your day was. Now, you feel like you're carrying every conversation. You ask. She answers. Silence. Then you ask another question. Psychology tells us that people naturally invest more energy in conversations they're emotionally engaged in. When someone becomes less emotionally involved, conversations can become shorter, less curious, and more transactional. That doesn't automatically mean she's lost interest. She could be stressed with work. She might be dealing with family problems, or she may simply be emotionally exhausted. That's why you should never judge based on one conversation. Instead, look for a consistent pattern. Here's what many people do wrong. They panic. They send 5 more messages. They ask, "Are you mad at me?" Ironically, this pressure can make communication feel even heavier. Instead, give space. Stay confident. Let the conversation breathe. Someone who enjoys talking to you usually comes back naturally. Here's something many people never notice. Emotional closeness isn't built on big conversations. It's built on tiny ones. When someone likes you, they often tell you random things. "I saw a funny dog today." "My coffee was terrible." "I almost missed my train." These details may seem unimportant, but psychologically, they're signs of emotional openness. People share everyday experiences with those they feel connected to. Now imagine those little updates suddenly disappear. She only replies when necessary. She never starts conversations. You feel like you're hearing less and less about her life. Again, this doesn't prove she's pulling away. Life circumstances can reduce communication for perfectly normal reasons. But if this change continues alongside several other signs in this video, it may be worth paying attention. The healthiest response isn't chasing more information. It's creating conversations where both people genuinely want to participate. Because attraction rarely grows through pressure. It grows through comfort, trust, and emotional safety. Have you noticed something strange? She still replies, but she rarely asks about you anymore. Think about the beginning of almost every strong connection. People ask questions. How was your meeting? Did you get home safely? How's your family? Those questions aren't just small talk. They're signs of emotional investment. Psychologists often describe curiosity as one way people show interest in another person's thoughts, experiences, and well-being. When that curiosity fades over time, it can sometimes reflect a shift in attention or priorities, but it isn't proof that someone has lost interest. There can be many reasons for this change. If every conversation becomes centered around logistics instead of genuine interest, if she never asks how you're doing, if she remembers less about the things you told her, you shouldn't panic. Instead, ask yourself one question: has this become the new normal? Because one quiet week means very little, but several weeks of emotional distance may deserve an honest conversation. Here's where many men make another mistake. They try harder. They send longer messages. They explain more. Ironically, people rarely become curious because someone talks more. Curiosity grows when conversations feel enjoyable, balanced, and emotionally safe. And that's exactly why the next sign surprises so many people. Words can be polite. Body language is often harder to fake. Imagine meeting someone who says, "It's great to see you," but she avoids eye contact. She keeps physical distance. Her smile disappears quickly. She constantly looks around the room. Something feels off. Body language researchers have found that nonverbal communication can provide useful clues about comfort, engagement, and attention. However, body language should never be interpreted in isolation because context matters. A person may appear distracted due to stress, fatigue, or unrelated concerns, not necessarily because of their feelings toward you. Instead of focusing on one gesture, look for clusters of behavior. Does she lean away more often? Does she end hugs faster than before? Does she avoid playful physical contact that once felt natural? When several of these changes happen consistently over time, they may signal that the emotional dynamic has changed. But here's something even more important. Don't turn yourself into a body language detective. Healthy relationships aren't built on decoding every movement. They're built on trust, respect, and honest communication. Sometimes the best answer isn't hidden inside someone's gestures. Sometimes it's found in a calm conversation. Because the next sign isn't about what she does, it's about what she suddenly stops doing. And that's where many people finally realize something has changed. Have you ever noticed that people always seem to find time for the things that truly matter to them? Think about it. No one is busy every single minute of every single day. When someone genuinely values a connection, they usually make an effort, even if it's just a short phone call, a quick message, or a few minutes together. So what happens when that effort slowly disappears? At first, it sounds reasonable. I'm really busy this week. Maybe next weekend. Something came up. Life happens, and sometimes those explanations are completely true. But if weeks turn into months, plans are always postponed, and every invitation receives another excuse. You may be seeing a pattern instead of a temporary situation. The important word here is pattern. Never judge someone because they cancelled one date. Never assume the worst after one busy week. Instead, ask yourself, is she trying to find another time? Because people who genuinely want to stay connected usually offer another opportunity. I'm busy Friday, but how about Sunday? That small difference matters. It's not just about saying no, it's about whether they're still trying to say yes. Here's another mistake many people make. They start begging for attention. They constantly ask, "Do you still like me? Did I do something wrong?" Unfortunately, anxiety often creates even more distance. Confidence isn't pretending you don't care. Confidence is respecting both yourself and the other person's space while communicating honestly. And that leads us to perhaps the biggest sign of all. Here's a simple question. If you stopped texting first today, how long would it take before she contacted you? 1 day? 1 week? Or never? Healthy relationships usually involve mutual effort. Sometimes one person reaches out first. Sometimes the other does. It doesn't have to be perfectly equal, but over time, both people normally contribute. Now imagine this. Every conversation starts with you. Every phone call starts with you. Every plan begins with you. Without your effort, nothing happens. That can feel exhausting. Psychology suggests that balanced relationships often involve reciprocal investment, where both people contribute to maintaining the connection. The exact balance won't look the same in every relationship, but if one person consistently carries all the effort, it's worth reflecting on the overall dynamic, rather than assuming a single explanation. Before jumping to conclusions, ask yourself, has this always been the case? Or is this a recent change? Because change tells a story. If she once initiated conversations but gradually stopped, that change may deserve attention. But here's something even more important. Don't play games. Don't disappear just to test someone. Healthy communication is stronger than silent tests. If you're confused, a calm and respectful conversation is usually more helpful than trying to decode every message or delay. Because the final sign isn't about texting, it isn't about body language, and it isn't about spending time together. It's about something much deeper, her emotional energy. And once you understand that, you'll see why so many people misunderstand what emotional distance really looks like. Here's the final sign, and it's the one that matters more than all the others combined. Because it's not about texting. It's not about body language. And it's not about how often you see each other. It's about how she makes you feel when you're together. Think about the beginning of your connection. She laughed easily. She seemed excited to talk. She was fully present. Now imagine meeting her today. She's physically there, but emotionally distant. Her smile feels forced. Her attention drifts. The conversations have lost their warmth. Sometimes she seems like she'd rather be somewhere else. This kind of emotional shift can happen in many relationships for many different reasons. Stress, anxiety, family issues, work pressure, or changes in life circumstances can all affect someone's emotional availability. That's why it's important not to assume the cause based on behavior alone. The real question isn't, has she changed? It's, has the emotional connection between us changed? Because relationships don't usually end in a single moment. They often fade through many small moments that go unnoticed. Here's something many people never hear. The biggest mistake isn't missing the signs, it's reacting to them the wrong way. When people sense emotional distance, many panic. They text more, call more, demand reassurance, or constantly ask, "Do you still love me?" Ironically, fear often creates even more pressure, and pressure rarely strengthens attraction. Psychologists generally agree that healthy relationships grow through trust, respect, honest communication, and emotional security, not through fear or constant reassurance. Instead of chasing, become someone who brings calmness. Instead of assuming, ask respectful questions. Instead of trying to control another person's feelings, focus on becoming a better communicator. Because confidence isn't forcing someone to stay. Confidence is knowing your value while respecting theirs. Let's quickly recap the 7 signs. Conversations begin to feel forced. She stops sharing the small details. She becomes less curious about your life. Her body language consistently changes. She no longer makes time for you. You're always the one reaching out. And finally, her emotional energy feels different. Remember, none of these signs alone prove that someone is pulling away. People go through difficult periods. Life becomes stressful. Emotions change. The healthiest approach is always to look for consistent patterns and communicate openly rather than making assumptions based on one behavior. Sometimes an honest conversation solves what overthinking never could. Now I'd like to hear from you. Which of these 7 signs do you think people misunderstand the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and want more psychology-based insights about relationships, attraction, body language, and human behavior, subscribe to Mind Decoded so you don't miss future videos. And if you're curious about why people lose attraction even when nothing seems wrong, watch the next video on your screen. You might discover the answer you've been looking for. Thanks for watching, and remember, decode human behavior, master yourself.